Do you have trouble with communication? Would you say is one of the most challenging things trying to download your brain dump into somebody else's brain cavity? Well, you're in
Brain
luck.
hole.
Because today's episode, we're going to be talking about why is communication so difficult. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Danny, I would say that you are actually a pretty good communicator.
Really?
Really,
Well,
you've
thank
always
you.
struck me as someone who's good at communicating.
Well, that's nice to hear. I mean, I
Hmm.
think, I feel like I'm good at, okay, I should say, I feel like I'm okay at communicating with people, and I don't really fear communication, so it doesn't bother me talking to people, but I wish I was better at it in terms of like communicating, like, how I feel and talking to people and stuff like that too, because I feel like there's still things that are still hard to talk about for everybody. But
Mm.
it's funny because I do see like, I don't know, I've been noticing it more and more, and I don't know if it's just people I've been around and stuff, but like, this anxiety about communicating with others, about talking, and just in general, like how many problems can you think of, even in your own life, where like once you communicated something, it was solved or addressed immediately, but you carried it with you for weeks or months or years, because you're
Hmm.
afraid to talk about it. And it's like, then you broach the subject and it's like, oh, okay, we can solve that or we can fix it or whatever, right? Or it's over with, you're done.
Yep. You think you can read somebody's mind and predict what they're thinking, and you don't need to have a conversation about it. I do that all the time.
It's funny. One of the things I think that I always struck with me was like, I remember in undergrad reading when I first started reading the existentialists and like their belief that like, in authenticity, obviously, but also in the belief that, there's no objective truths, only subjective truths, and that we can't really bridge the gap between one mind and another, right? So like, even if you think about like we use every time we communicate, we subsume our identity under universal concepts, language, right? In order to convey stuff. So like when you say like I love you to somebody or something like that, they don't know what all the crap going on in your head that motivated that statement, what it really means to you. All they can do
Hmm.
is take that concept and interpret it as best they can. So there's always like this gap. And I always found that really interesting because to me it seems like that's pretty accurate.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the crazy thing. Like the word "I love you" or something like that. To one person, that means like, oh, they want to live happily ever after with
Yeah.
me. That's awesome. To the other person, it just means like, I want to have sex with you. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, like I'm attracted to you or something, or like,
yeah.
whatever. And like, it is funny. I don't know. It's very interesting. Or like, I know I've had this experience. I'm sure other people have, especially when I was younger, like where people like you question whether like, you're in a relationship, you question whether the other person loves you. But like, if you really thought about like if you're jealous or something, right? It can cloud your mind and you lose that like ability to see like what's really in front of you. It's interesting.
Totally. Yeah. So if communications are so important, why are they so challenging?
I don't know. I feel like we've this is the other thing I was thinking about. Like we've been doing this for so long, right? Society, and yet we haven't gotten any better at it. It's like
Mm-mm.
there's more people than ever, but like it's just funny, like all these problems come up and we're so bad at just communicating and expressing
Hmm.
the why or the reasons for something and being able to like listen to other people because we're so quick to believe that we have the right answer, that nobody else is right. I mean, I'm thinking broadly, like, think of politics, like, the dualism there, like with both parties and like not listening to each other at all, right? And like it's like we speak past each other rather than, and maybe that's it. Maybe we don't listen. Maybe like we don't participate enough as on the opposite side of that communication thing. I'm terrible at
Yeah,
communicating today.
definitely. Well, communication a lot of times. So I'm listening to this book, Think Again, and it just pisses me off because it's basically like a whole big book on communication techniques. It's just like, yeah, duh. So, anyways, uh,
But
but
that's
they
what's
have a whole
funny. It's
part.
so commonsensical, right? Like so much of
Yeah,
it is like
it's
common
like
sense.
listen to what they're saying, reflect back to them what they've said, and don't be confrontational. It's like, come on. So, anyways, uh, but what they didn't really say is like, I guess they were kind of hinting at it, but not very much, is validation.
That's book
So
two.
yeah, right. I know. So like validation is so much more important than like reflective listening, because reflective listening is like, yeah, I just said that, like, no duh. But like validation, you connect with the person's feeling, how they're feeling it, and then they felt heard, because that's pretty much all that people want in communication.
No, I think validation is huge. And like, I don't know, I was thinking about myself, like what in times where I really struggle with communication, like I notice a lot of times when I think reflect back, and that might be memory, might be a little off, but like it's like I'm afraid of something. Not necessarily, it's not usually the communication part, although that gets like magnified, that fear gets magnified because of the other consequence. And a lot of times it's
Hmm.
afraid of like I'm imagining something's going to happen because I say this thing, and like
Hmm.
a relationship's going to break up, I'll lose my job, whatever, right? Whatever it is. um and so then I'm like terrified of bridging the subject with the person, which then makes it worse because usually people can tell something's wrong. We communicate more than just verbally, obviously, you know
Hmm.
and it's interesting because I feel like that is a lot of it. Like we're terrified of something kind of adjacent to whatever the issue is, and then we imagine and make it worse rather
Hmm.
than like reflecting on what can I do, how can I address this now before it gets worse, or before it like, you know, because some things are like seeds that just build in us and grow and become like toxic over time.
But that's the crazy thing. I'm glad you said that because it's like afraid that you're not going to get your needs met. Now, like, and a lot of this comes from childhood when we couldn't meet our own needs. And
Yeah.
so if our needs didn't get met, could have been a traumatic experience. But now we're all grown adults. And if we can ask correctly, we can get our needs met. And but it's the same trappings of communication. Like I had an experience recently where when you said afraid of getting your needs met, this is exactly what it was, where there was basically like a big elephant in the room, and I knew I needed to just breach that subject, but I was afraid of doing that because if I felt that if I did, I wouldn't get my needs met. And yeah,
And it's funny because like I find at least personally, like I don't know, you probably had like how many times has it actually happened where you said the thing and the consequence happened that you were afraid of? Like for me,
rarely.
zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even when I was afraid like, a relationship would end or something, like nine times out of ten, it actually helped because you address the issue finally and get out in the open. And sometimes, sometimes I know in one instance in my past, like a relationship did need to end. And I was kind of afraid of it because there was part of me that didn't want that to lose. But then when I finally burst, I felt better, right? It's like we
Hmm.
carry this weight of all these things on our minds, and like it feels so good to get rid of them, yet we are so slow at addressing it. It's so weird.
It's kind of like we want control a lot, and control of
Kind
like
of.
stuff that's not in our control.
And
Because
we don't
dude,
want
the
things to
same,
change, right? Like I guess
yeah,
that's also part of it. Yeah.
yeah. Like I want these relationships to turn out exactly how I want them to turn out. Like, and so yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same type of thing. And just learning to recognize, like I told you I think last week, I've been reading through Massimo's book, the Field Guide to the Happy Life, and
Yeah,
so I
it's a good
read like
one.
an excerpt every day, and it's been a pretty good like way to wake up with a little stoic remembrance every day, because it's just like every day I'm doing the same dumb stuff. I'm trying to control stuff that's outside of my
Yeah.
control.
It's funny, that whole thing of the dichotomy of control is like, I mean, that's why they, one, spend so much time on it, and two, like, it was a big part of like their practice too, because I think that's one of the things we all struggle with, which is trying exactly that, right? Trying to control things that we have no control over. Reality, other people, you know, just nature, things like that,
Yeah,
and it's like,
everything.
and it's really funny that we can't seem to like grasp this concept that we only can control our how we think, our responses to things, so forth and so
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. So
it is
yeah,
weird.
communication. It's tough. Any helpful pointers on communication?
I've been trying to do this more, and I will admit that I'm not 100% successful at it, but it's been getting better. Is like when I feel like something's bothering me and I can identify what it is, because I'm not always sure, but when I can identify and like a conversation needs to be had, just having it, trying to have it
Mm,
as soon as possible. And even when I'm scared, and just get it the hell out of the way, because I found that that's just like, before I can start like imagining and ruminating on it and making it worse, if I can just get it over with, I always find that the result is better. I feel better, and I don't have that anxiety and stress on my shoulders anymore. So that's what I've been
mm.
trying to do, and it's been working pretty well.
Yeah, that's a great one. Opening your mouth and just talking about it.
Well, I'll give you an example, right? Yeah, exactly. Like I was working for a client. I had something happen and it slowed down my project a little. And I didn't feel like I didn't want to contact them and tell them because I was like, I should be dealing with this. And then like I was like, what, that's stupid. I'm an adult. Like, I'm doing so I just called them right away. And then it was fine. Like totally understood, no problem. And actually it was we ended up working out positive. So it was like, Had
Hmm.
I ruminated on that though, I might not have like that might have distracted me from continuing working or something, like we forget how this influences us in other areas. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Like just take control and just talk. Yeah.
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 Bingo. Yeah, I would say hmm, communication. Yeah, for a lot of people, communication comes down to shutting up.
That too. Yeah.
Hmm.
Listen.
It's so crazy, like how many people will just like talk your ear off. You'll say like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what's up?" And then 30 minutes later, they finally stop talking.
When I first started working at university as a faculty member, when I just got into it, I was nervous, because you're around other people that have been doing this for years. And I remember like when I first got there, I did like would talk to these people, introduce myself, but I wouldn't say anything about myself. And they would just go on and on. And like I realized I was like, oh, I don't have to say anything like at all. To
Hmm.
keep all I gotta do is listen and just go, yeah, uh-huh. Ask a question
Hmm.
here and there and you're good. It's very funny. Like people are
Yeah.
very like energetic about that. Yeah, talking about themselves.
Yeah. People love to talk about themselves. Yeah. So, anyways, there you have it. Quick little thing on communication. Why is it so gosh darn hard? Oh, this is why I think it's so hard because by
Oh.
the time we actually get decent at it, we die. It probably takes like 60 to 80 years to get effective at communication. By the time
Mhm.
you get there, you're dead.
Well, you know what, too? I think as you get older, I think I don't know if this is, accurate for everybody. I feel like it gets easier because you're less concerned about fitting in with everybody because you've found yourself more, right? So you're less, and I think that makes it easier because you have less stress about all these outside factors.
And you've
You
just
know?
survived so much stuff, you just don't
Yeah,
care anymore. You're just
that's
like,
yeah,
you know what? If it doesn't work out, I'm still just going to have hemorrhoids anyways. So,
well,
it
it's
doesn't
like
matter.
things, yeah, it's like things we thought were the end of the world when we were 15, right? We
Hmm.
realize are like that's just Tuesdays or whatever when you're older.
Hmm.
It's like no big deal. Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. That is true.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you enjoyed this episode, give it a like, subscribe, check us out on the podcasting wherever. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'll see you later,
Communication.
Danny.
Later.